Recently, I got the chance to visit Las Vegas, Nevada, and while I was there, I made the rather poor financial decision to ride the Big Apple coaster. For you guys, of course. It definitely also isn't one of the only 3 total new credits I've gotten this year. Anyway, this Togo multi-looper has a really bad reputation among enthusiasts, which oddly just made me more excited to give it a whirl. But does it live up to the hype? Or lack thereof? Let's discuss. Alright, let's start with a little bit of history, because a coaster this weird deserves some background. The Big Apple coaster was announced in 1995 when MGM and Prima Donna Resorts revealed that it would open with the New York Hotel and Casino in 1997. The coaster instantly gained popularity, with one journal praising it for adding to the New York theme even more by adding a Coney Island vibe. Somehow, I guess. The coaster, then called Manhattan Express, would be designed and constructed by Japanese manufacturer Togo for a solid $18 million. While that may sound like way more than what it's worth, you do have to remember that this thing sits on top of a freaking building, which adds a whole new aspect of engineering to the equation. Unfortunately, that price did not get Manhattan Express a whole lot of quality. Just months after it opened, Clark County forced a shutdown of the ride several times due to safety issues. Many steel rods had to be replaced, and finally in 2000, the resort hired Premier Rides to modify the coaster and make it actually work. 7 years later, it was renamed to the roller coaster, exhilarating, and 6 years after that, it was given the name that it still has today, the Big Apple coaster. The Big Apple currently stands as the only Togo coaster left in the States, and probably for good reason considering the multiple closures it had before an overhaul. The coaster received new trains from Premier Rides in 2021, and they derailed before it could even open, so that was nice. Moving on to appearance, I had no clue what to think going in, and now that I've been there, I can still say that I have no clue what to think. At first glance, this coaster is incredibly ugly. The shaping and placement of the elements looks janky and stupid, yet it fits the Vegas vibe. You see, when you walk around Las Vegas, nothing is cohesive. You go from a giant gold building straight into a pyramid, and then half a mile further down you see the New York skyline and a mini Eiffel Tower. Because of how weird looking Vegas is, the Big Apple coaster fits right in without a problem. I will say though, I think it's impressive that the resort went to the effort of repainting almost the whole coaster recently, and it actually looks pretty good right now. Alright, it's finally time to get into some actual review. When you go up to the Big Apple coaster, you'll buy a ticket and be directed through an extremely loud and overwhelming arcade into the coaster plaza. Classic Vegas, constantly trying to distract you and get you to spend more money. Once you manage to follow the arrows on the ground well enough to get to the entrance, your ticket will get a slight glance from an employee and you'll get into the line. Here's where it gets fun. This line is bad. It's just a bunch of switchbacks, but the whole time they're playing some random pop and rap music, uncensored by the way, super loud, and it is honestly just annoying. Adding on to that, the station is in sight, and here you are waiting half an hour in a 20-person line. Oh yeah, the dispatches suck. While the Big Apple coaster was running 2 trains while I was there, I would be shocked if those trains got sent out in any less than 6 minutes each. So 2 trains wasn't super effective at pumping people through this coaster. And it really needed to do that, because the line just got longer and longer as I stood in it. Finally, you walk up some stairs into the station, get your ticket stamped, and choose your row. If you're me, this is when it gets really confusing, and after 15 minutes of trying to figure out if it was raining, the coaster closed down for some minor sprinkling because, in the operator's words, it can't run with wet tires. What tires? That's a joke, we love ride operators. You'll board the train and awkwardly squeeze yourself under the comfort collars and into the cramped Premier trains. You pull the lap bar down and note the really uncomfortable shin guards, which, by the way, do all new Premier trains have these? Someone let me know in the comments please, because that could be a deal breaker for me. Anyway, once your restraints are, well, restraining you, All that you need to dispatch is for the train in front of you to clear the mid-course. Okay, maybe the final brake run. Nope, now it's in the station, and finally you dispatch. The train navigates 2 left-hand turns and goes up into the lift hill. While ascending the horrifically slow lift hill, I was continually noting to myself how much I did not like the new trains. I never got the chance to ride in the old Premier trains, but the shin guards and lap bar were really digging into my thighs and, well, shins. Finally, the train crests the lift hill, goes through a short straight section 203 feet in the air, and enters the 76-foot first drop. I was in the back row for my one ride, and shockingly, this drop actually had some B&M hyper level floater in the back. It was really fun. At the bottom of the drop, the train navigates a small left turn that actually rides pretty smooth. At this point, rising up into the first large turn, I was really wondering why people hate on this coaster so much. While the sounds it was making did sound rather questionable, it was actually really fun. And then we hit the turn. This is where you really get to feel Togo's whack engineering, and it is whack. This turn feels like it's only using strict roll nodes and no limits too, and it has a really weird dip in the middle of it. It's not that awful, but it is so incredibly janky. This turn leads into the biggest and I believe steepest drop of the ride at 144 feet and 55 degrees. I think this is also probably where the coaster hits its max speed of 67 miles per hour. This drop will send you right back up into another high turn, and this one is genuinely bad, finally making me understand why the Big Apple coaster is so infamous. The train will start turning right with some decent banking, then out of nowhere it unbanks in a really rough manner, but it continues turning. Then once again, out of nowhere and really head-smashingly, it tilts you back to the left and dives down. This dive is shaped so horribly. It has a few random jolts in it, and then when it unbanks at the bottom, it slams your body all over the place. Okay, maybe this thing does suck. The dive drops you into a vertical loop that's actually decently smooth and intense. Following the loop is a little straight section before you rise into my favorite element on the ride, the Heartline Dive Loop. This is an element that only Togo has done as far as I know, but it is super fun. The twist is smooth and insanely whippy, there's a tiny bit of hang time at the top, and then the dive? I'll just let the POVs do the talking here. The descent slams your head into the seat back in a way that's painful, but also so stupid that you can't help but laugh. It is also pretty intense. That's 2 forceful moments in a row. Next, the train will navigate a small right-hand turn that I honestly don't even remember existing, so I guess it wasn't that bad. The train sends you up into the mid-course, and you might get some airtime in the front, but in the back there was absolutely nothing. The mid-course slows the train to a crawl, but looking at the turn after, it makes sense. This turn starts with a slight descent, and then it dips further out of nowhere, except it's not out of nowhere, it's under the dive into the loop. This moment is a hilariously insane head chopper even though you're going super slow, and it really feels like Togo was designing the ride and then looked up and said,
"Hey, John, it's looking like the coaster is gonna run into itself here,
Oh, don't worry about it. All you gotta do is just slide this one down a little bit. Perfect, now just goes right under.
Wait, no, don't press that button, no! Yeah, it looks weird. Yeah, this turn is also super rough, but actually it's not bad since it crawls along at about 5 miles an hour. Following this turn is a shallow drop and an even shallower airtime hill. I say airtime hill very loosely because this is possibly the least airtime I've ever felt on a hill. That's including Intimidator. I know that it's probably not trying to give ejector, but oh my gosh, it crawls over this hill. Next you'll go up into a right-hand turn, and while the transitions in and out of it bang you around quite a bit, the turn itself isn't too bad. The drop off the turn sends the train into a baby airtime hill that actually has a little bit of floater to it. Not a lot, but enough to be fun. 2 elements to go, and the second to last is a 540-degree helix. This helix is smooth, but it's very slow, and because of that, it does end up being a pretty boring element. Finally, you hit a bunny hop with a quick floater moment before hitting the brakes, which have a rather violent lateral moment in the middle of them. Overall, the Big Apple coaster is actually really fun. If you go in expecting something awful to laugh on, you'll have a great time like I did. It's incredibly janky and hilariously bad, so I honestly loved it for no reason. It's not like it ranks very high, but yeah, it's fun, I guess. It's also a really long ride, which gets you your money's worth. Ish. It's Vegas. $19 for a ride isn't even that bad, honestly. So with that, I give Big Apple Coaster a stupid out of 10. It's a coaster that probably shouldn't exist, but it does, and I love it. Moral of the story, this is not the worst coaster in the world, or even close to it. I hope you enjoyed this video. I will now return to my cave of schoolwork.